last year. And those numbers do vary from month to month and from year to year for those months. So that 352 tons is an estimate of the a reduction in the waste due to the recycling, curbside recycling program. But just when I say it's an estimate, then it kind of makes you wonder what kind of impact, if that estimate is correct, that will have on the landfill deficit reduction. If we annualize the 352 reduction for the first 5 months, that would be a reduction of 845 tons on an annual basis. 845 tons would be 9.9% reduction from the total tons in FY 10. That would result in a reduced payment from the city's refuse collection fund to the transfer station of $50,700. And of that $50,700, 16.9 is the portion that would stay in the transfer station fund, and 33,800 would be the portion that would pass through to the landfill fund. The actual, there's a couple of footnotes on this schedule. That $16,900 reduction to the transfer station, there will be transfer station hauling costs will be reduced somewhat with additional waste volume being hauled. Of course, we can't really quantify that at this point, and it's all an estimate, but the exact impact won't be quite as much as 16.9. And then the landfill impact may be closer to $30,000, in that some of the surcharge fees are based on tonnage. So with that being late, with that being deducted from the landfill portion, the actual decrease in revenues would be about $30,000. And again, these are preliminary estimates. 5 years or 5 months into the program, it does show trends, but I think when we have a full year of the curbside program, we'll have a better idea of the actual waste reduction from that program. So in summary, it does appear like the plan that the landfill committee proposed and the council approved last year is being followed. The current year reduction of the deficit was $412,000. This was slightly more than what was in that plan. The additional waste volume from the new negotiated contracts, that is bringing us additional revenue. And then our projections for FY12 show a further reduction of over $416,000 in that deficit. So it does look like we've got a good start on that plan. And then my last comments there are, there will be factors every year that influence how that plan proceeds in future years. There will be the impact from the curbside recycling program that will be felt, as well as there will probably be a need for capital expenditures at the landfill in addition to the construction of the next cell. But with those factors in mind, it does appear that the landfill deficit reduction plan is working, and that the goal of substantially reducing and ultimately with the goal of eliminating the deficit is starting to be realized.
short, it's working twice as well as it was before. We're instead of decreasing the deficit by about $200,000 annually, we're increasing it by over $400,000 annually. So the committee's suggestions have us back at least headed in the right direction, and we'll be able to address capital costs down the road as well going forward. And then I guess one other side note, this doesn't address capacity, obviously, with the effect we have with recycling and the great participation rates that we have. Obviously, we'll have increased capacity in that those landfill cells as well. And that's not factored into those costs. So.
Transportation costs from the transfer station to the landfill, that per trailer, per ton, per what? Per load? Is there a minimum per day that they guaranteed 3 loads or 5 loads, or is it whatever we generate?
But there's no minimum.
I just wondered how the contract was written. If he's guaranteed 5 runs a day, and be paid for 5, whether he uses 5 or only does 3.
If you're going to continue this, I'm going to ask Laura to come to the lectern.
It is a per load basis, but there is a provision for a fuel surcharge. And when fuel prices go up, the price per load actually does go up as well.
But is there a minimum daily or weekly or monthly load?
No. And I think if there's inclement weather and waste can't be hauled, I think they don't haul on those types of days.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Council, anyone else? Questions?
A couple of our committee members are here tonight if they want to comment. Gary Carlson and Bill Trent. And
Gary is ready, Jenkins. I know.
Need to commend the committee for
outstanding
job.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Nance. Gary,
Thanks, Gary.
Gary, would you like to bring council up to date just a little bit? Please, thank you, Nancy.
Well, I want to applaud, the team that worked on that. It was a lot of businesses that participated. Bill's here, Greg's here too, because the chamber did that. But the city staff worked closely with us. I think the thing to remember is that we were in a kind of a tough position. As you recall, we're all friendly right now, but we weren't so friendly when this was being discussed because the thought of flow control and mandated control, was not really what we thought was in the best interest. And I think it does show again a great example of when business and the city work together that we can come out and find solutions. And I think part of the philosophy we came up with the crew, with the team on this, was the best thing you can do is have a landfill and not put anything in it. I mean, if you really think about landfill management, you should not ever be in a hurry to fill them up. because that's when your expenditures go high, either in developing other cells or buying other properties and other permitting. So if we can put this on fiscal sound footing, the way we're doing it, and having the volumes low, then we're going to extend the life. And so if we can continue in the path, and of course none of us are crystal balls as to what the economics are going to be of the whole community, but if we can continue to do this, I think you might even see the deficit eliminated and a cash balance starting to build for the investments of as future cells are developed, or if we decide that the landfill at some point, the city doesn't want to be in the landfill business, you'll be able to make that decision, as you're going forward, but you'll be able to make it at a timely decision. So I again applaud everybody for working together and appreciate the council having confidence that we could put a project together. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gary. Does anyone have a question for Gary before he sits down? Anyone?
No question, just a comment, Mayor, if I may, that I appreciate the team concept of our community that work together to come to a solution that eventually will be solved, and that's the deficit.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, council? No one else? Thank you again, Nancy, and thank you, Gary. Very much appreciated. Good job, and all the people that are involved. It's a very good start, very good job. It is appreciated. Okay, off we will go to the next item on tonight's agenda, affordable housing development proposal, the Glen Cobblestone Ridge. Greg?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have representatives from, I hope I say this right, the very development group here tonight, Larry Bruce-Terry, close enough. I'm going to ask Mr. Bruce-Terry to come up to the lectern, and he's going to run through his proposal tonight and certainly open it up for council questions, and I'll make a couple comments at the conclusion as well.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Larry Bruce-Terry. I'm one of the co-owners of the Very Development Group. We're an affordable housing developer out of Chicago, Illinois, although a lot of our work is throughout the state of Illinois. We're expanding our efforts now to the surrounding states in the Midwest, including Iowa, Wisconsin, and Indiana. And the Glen at Cobblestone Ridge is a proposal that we'd like you to consider for a development of 46 new affordable apartments, duplexes, meaning when I say apartment, I mean rental duplexes at Cobblestone Ridge. We are my own personal background let me give you more on the Very before we talk about the project. My own personal background is that I've been doing affordable housing development for over 20 years, primarily in the downstate portion of Illinois. About 4 years ago, I partnered with Cullen Davis, who is also an affordable housing developer, but also a affordable housing property manager. He has a company called Urban Property Advisors and some other management companies. Together they manage over 3,000 units of affordable housing. Although Cullen's background was a little bit more urban, he was primarily in Chicago. And we formed the company in the middle of 2007 to meet a need. What I was doing was going throughout the state and working with other developers at the time to do affordable housing projects, which were being brought to us because of our reputation for communities that had a certain need that they wanted to fill, or organizations within the community that's often sometimes a nonprofit, and sometimes it was for-profit developers who were walking in. But what happened is, as you know, we had the economic collapse and everything changed, not only for the private market, but also for affordable housing. And what was happening is that a lot of the investors and lenders, and including government lenders who were developing this affordable housing, really tightened their lending standards, so that a lot of good developments were actually being left on the table. What I mean by that is somebody would come to us with an idea that we thought really had legs, but we knew we couldn't get it financed because they didn't have the financial wherewithal, given the really tight criteria that was being held now in terms of organizational resources to get the projects done. And yeah, we thought they were valuable development projects. So we formed a company so that we could partner with local organizations in areas that really seemed to have an unmet need for affordable housing. And that's how the company was formed, and we've done a number of projects. We own about 4 right now. We have completed financing on 2 more. We're going to go into construction soon on those. And one of the things we decided we need to do, because we were so successful with the state of Illinois, and they limit how many we could do in terms of using the state financing, that we need to expand to other states to really fulfill our mission. You have before you a brief summary of what we want to do here. We're throwing this out for discussion and reaction. We don't pretend to be the be-alls and know-alls of all the communities, as well as the local participants are. We are in the process of searching out a local partner who could also be a part of the ownership structure and a local presence for us as we maintain and operate the development, and also through the development process. So we're very interested in a symbiotic relationship with all the communities that we're in. A couple of the nearby examples that you might may or may not be familiar with, or want to make yourself familiar with, of our developments are, you have a picture of one in just over the border in Illinois, in Monmouth, Illinois, and that is a similar project in that it's not all duplexes, but it's of similar size, and it is 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s all kind of intermingled, but in a similar site plan to this, with similar amenities, which I'll talk about in a little while. And sometimes people ask us, so how do we know that there's a need? You know, basically, most communities really have this need. It's working class housing, and it's not economically feasible for the private market to develop this housing. So you'll have high-end development, and you'll have maybe very low-end public housing type development, but this strata is kind of missed because it's basically too expensive to build it nowadays. The debt service to pay for something like this raises the rents beyond people's means, and is no longer affordable. And so what's happening is the government is really taking the lead on this, and the lead is done through what's called the federal tax credit